Captain Lee Taman stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber stretched out before him like a giant bowl. 12 different alien species sat in their special seats, each one designed for their unique bodies. The Vraxians looked like tall lizards with sharp teeth. The crystalline beings sparkled like living diamonds. The bio-collective members pulsed with strange organic patterns under their skin. For 200 years, humans had worked alongside these species. They had built space stations together. They had solved problems that seemed impossible. They had shared their knowledge and learned from each other. Lee Taman had spent his whole life believing in this partnership. Today, everything would change. The Vraxian speaker, Ambassador Vrex Kothar, rose from his seat. His scales gleamed under the chamber's lights. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "The motion before us today is clear," Kothar said. "Humanity must be removed from the Galactic Council. They have become too dangerous to remain among us." Lee Taman felt his heart sink. He had known this day might come, but hearing the words still shocked him. Around the hall, other human representatives sat frozen in their seats. Dr. Park Soo-hyun, the brilliant scientist who had spent decades studying alien biology, stared at Kothar with wide eyes. Commander Kim Dong-yun gripped the arms of his chair so tight his knuckles turned white. "The humans developed new technology too quickly," Kothar continued. "They ask too many questions. They change things that should not be changed. This makes them unpredictable. Unpredictable species bring chaos." The crystalline representative spoke next. Their voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We agree with our Vraxian friends. Humans have been working on projects without permission. Their research goes beyond what we agreed upon. This threatens the stability we have built." Lee Taman wanted to stand up and shout. The humans had only tried to help. When the crystalline homeworld faced an energy crisis, human engineers had found a solution. When the bio-collective ships started getting sick, human doctors had cured them. When trade routes became dangerous, human pilots had made them safe again. The bio-collective speaker pulsed with red patterns. "Humans do not follow rules properly. They create new methods when old methods work fine. This behavior spreads to other species. It must be stopped." Admiral Yu Minha sat behind Lee Taman. She had served in the Joint Council fleet for 30 years. She had fought alongside aliens in a dozen wars. Her voice was steady when she whispered, "They're afraid of us." The Sage Republic representative stood up. These beings looked almost like humans, but with longer limbs and larger eyes. "We do not agree with this motion. Humans have brought great benefits to our alliance. Their creativity has solved problems we could not solve alone." The Trader Alliance member nodded. "Humans are excellent partners in business. They find new ways to improve trade. Removing them would hurt all of us." But Lee Taman could count. 8 species supported removing humans. Only 4 opposed it. In the council, majority ruled. Kothar's tail swished behind him. "The decision is made. All human colonies, stations, and ships must leave council space within 72 hours. Any human technology or research will remain behind for our security." Dr. Park Soo-hyun finally stood up. Her voice shook with emotion. "You cannot do this. My research on interspecies healing could save millions of lives. The projects we work on together benefit everyone." "Your research is too dangerous," the crystalline speaker replied. "You change things too much. We prefer slow, careful progress." Lee Taman rose to his feet. The hall grew quiet. "For 2 centuries, humans have served this council faithfully. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have fought your wars and solved your problems. This is how you repay us?" Kothar's eyes narrowed. "You have served, yes. But you have also grown too powerful, too independent. Other species begin to copy your methods. This creates instability." "You mean they begin to think for themselves?" Commander Kim Dong-hyun said quietly. The bio-collective speaker's patterns turned angry purple. "Humans teach rebellion. They encourage change. Change is dangerous." Admiral Yu Minha stood beside Lee Taman. "We built half the stations in this galaxy. We designed your defense systems. We created the trade networks you all use. How will you maintain these without us? We will learn, Kothar said, or we will find other ways. The vote was quick. 8-4. Humanity was expelled from the Galactic Council. The next 72 hours passed like a nightmare. 12 million humans lived across Council space. They had homes on alien worlds, jobs on space stations, families spread across the galaxy. Now they had to leave everything behind. Lee Taman coordinated the massive evacuation from his ship. Transport vessels arrived from Earth and the human colonies. People packed what they could carry and said goodbye to alien friends and co-workers. Dr. Park Soo-hyun watched security guards seal her laboratory. 20 years of research on alien diseases was locked away. Her alien research partners looked sad, but said nothing. They were too afraid to help. Commander Kim Dong-yun organized the withdrawal of human military units. Alien officers who had served with humans for decades could only watch silently. Some shook hands in secret farewell. The hardest part was leaving the mixed families. Humans who had married aliens faced impossible choices. Some aliens chose to leave with their human partners, giving up their citizenship. Others stayed behind, tears streaming down alien faces as their human loved ones departed. Engineer Choi Ji-ho was pulled away from the massive space station he had helped build. Who will maintain the quantum generators? He asked his replacement, a young crystalline technician. We will figure it out, the alien replied. But Ji-ho could see the worry in his crystal-like features. On the final day, Lee Taman's ship was the last to leave Council space. As they crossed the border, he looked back at the stars that had been humanity's home for centuries. Where do we go now? Dr. Park Soo-hyun asked. We find new stars, Admiral Yu Min-ha replied. We build something better. Behind them, the first reports came in. A Vraxian mining station had lost power. The automated systems that controlled the mining equipment had stopped working. The alien technicians could not figure out why. Lee Taman did not smile, but he remembered something. The mining station used human-designed control systems, the same systems that dozens of other stations relied on. Systems that needed human expertise to maintain properly. Maybe the Council would learn what they had lost. Maybe they would understand. Too late that some partnerships are too valuable to throw away. As the human fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for unknown worlds beyond Council territory, the first cracks began to show in the great alliance they had been forced to leave behind. 6 months had passed since the humans left Council space. Captain Lee Taman sat in his new office on New Sol, a frontier world beyond the old borders. The planet was rough and wild, but humans were good at making homes in difficult places. Already, small cities were growing where empty land had been before. A message came through on his communication device. The sender was anonymous, but Lee Taman recognized the quantum signature. It was from Dr. Yalis Vorth, a crystalline scientist who had worked with Dr. Park Soo-hyun for many years. Please help us, the message said simply. Everything is breaking. Lee. Taman called Dr. Park Soo-hyun to his office. She looked tired but determined. 6 months in exile had been hard on all the humans, but especially the scientists who had left their life's work behind. Look at this. Lee Taman showed her the message. Soo-hyun read it carefully. Yalis was my research partner for 15 years. She would not contact me unless something was very wrong. What kind of wrong? The kind that kills people. More messages began arriving over the following days. They came through secret channels encoded and hidden. Alien scientists, engineers, and workers were reaching out to their former human colleagues. Each message told the same story. Systems were failing across Council space. Engineer Choi Ji-ho received the most desperate calls. He had worked on infrastructure, projects throughout the galaxy. His designs kept space stations running, planets breathing, and ships flying. Now those same systems were breaking down. The quantum generators on Station Harmony are acting strange, one message said. The power output keeps changing. We cannot find the problem. Our atmospheric processors on Vraxian Colony 7 are making weird noises, said another. The air smells different. People are getting sick. Jiho explained the problem to Lee Taemin. Human technology is not just about the machines. It is about understanding how all the parts work together. These aliens learn to operate our systems, but they never learn to truly understand them. The first major disaster happened on the Vraxian flagship, the Dominion's Pride. Captain An Seung-jin heard about it from his contacts in the merchant fleet. The massive warship had been the symbol of Vraxian power for 50 years. The reactor went critical, An Seung-jin reported. They could not stop the chain reaction. 50,000 crew members died in the explosion. Admiral Yu Mina studied the technical reports that were secretly shared with them. This reactor used human-designed safety protocols. The Vraxians thought they could handle it alone. What went wrong? Lee Taemin asked. Everything, Yu Minha replied. The safety systems were not just technology. They required human intuition and experience to work properly. When something unusual happened, the Vraxian engineers followed their standard procedures. But human systems need flexible thinking. Dr. Park Soo-hyun received more troubling news from the Bio Collective. Their organic ships were getting sick. These vessels were part machine and part living creature. Human bioengineers had spent decades learning how to keep them healthy. The symbiotic balance is breaking down, Soo-hyun explained to the others. The Bio Collective tried to maintain it themselves, but they do not understand the subtle relationships involved. Their ships are starting to fight each other instead of working together. Scientist Han Myeon had been working on quantum communication systems for the Council before the expulsion. Now she intercepted distress signals from across former Council space. The crystalline hegemony is facing the worst problems, Myeon reported. Their entire civilization is based on crystal networks that regulate their planet's climates. These networks use harmonic frequencies that humans helped them calibrate 200 years ago. What happens when the calibration fails? Lee Taemin asked. Their planets become uninhabitable. The reports kept coming. Terraforming equipment on dozens of worlds had stopped working properly. Space elevators swayed dangerously because their stabilization systems were acting up. Trade ships got lost when their navigation computers malfunctioned. Commander Kim Dong-hyun organized these reports like intelligence data. Every failure involves systems that humans designed or improved. The aliens kept the operations manuals, but they never learned the principles behind the technology. Pilot Nam Hyunwoo had started running secret cargo missions to Council space. Officially, he was a smuggler now. Unofficially, he was helping desperate alien governments get human expertise. They pay 10 times the normal rate, Hyunwoo reported, and they do not ask questions about how we fix their problems. They just want their systems to work again. The Traitor Alliance was the first to break ranks officially. Their representative, a squid-like being named Merchant Prime Zealot, sent a formal message to Lee Taemin's government. The Traitor Alliance wishes to establish full diplomatic relations with the Human Frontier Coalition. We were wrong to support your expulsion. Our trade networks are failing without human innovation. More secret negotiations began. Individual Vraxian governors contacted human engineers through back channels. Some crystalline colonies sent desperate pleas for help with their dying crystal forests. But the most surprising contact came from within the Sage Republic. A young leader named Wisdom Speaker Than sent a coded message. Many of us opposed the Council's decision from the beginning. Our elder leaders were too afraid to vote against the majority, but now we see the consequences. The Sage Republic is considering leaving the Council entirely. Dr. Park Soo-hyun found herself at the center of these negotiations. Her expertise in interspecies biology made her invaluable to the aliens who were struggling with systems she had originally designed. They do not just need our technology, she told Lee Taemin. They need our way of thinking. We approach problems differently than they do. We try new solutions when old ones do not work. And they do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. The breaking point came when Nexus Station, the Council's main shipbuilding facility, experienced a critical failure. Engineer Choi Jiho had helped design the station's core systems 20 years earlier. The massive structure housed 3 million workers and produced most of the Council's military vessels. The main reactor is overheating, the report said. Cooling systems are not responding. Evacuation has begun, but we may lose the entire station. Jiho watched the news broadcast with growing horror. I know exactly what is wrong. The cooling system has 3 backup protocols, but they must be activated in a specific sequence. If they do it wrong, the reactor will explode. Can you help them? Lee Taman asked. Not from here. Someone needs to be on the station to guide the repairs. They all knew what that meant. Any human who returned to council space would be arrested as a spy or terrorist. The political situation was too tense for official help. But Nam Hyunwoo stepped forward. I can get there. My ship is fast and I know the security gaps. It is too dangerous, Admiral Yu Minha protested. 3 million people will die if we do nothing, Jiho replied. I have to try. As Nam Hyunwoo's ship raced toward Nexus Station, carrying Jiho and a small team of human engineers, the situation in council space continued to deteriorate. More systems failed every day. The aliens who had been so confident about removing humans began to realize what they had lost. But pride is a powerful thing. Instead of admitting their mistake, many council leaders blamed the failures on human sabotage. They claimed the humans had deliberately designed faulty systems to make themselves indispensable. Lee Taman knew better. Humans had built those systems to last and to work well. But they had also built them to be maintained by people who understood the principles behind them. Without that understanding, even the best technology would eventually fail. The question now was whether the council would swallow their pride and ask for help, or watch their civilization crumble rather than admit they had been wrong. 1 year had passed since the expulsion. Captain Lee Taman stood on the observation deck of New Seoul's orbital station, watching human ships arrive and depart. The Human Frontier Coalition had grown stronger during their exile. Free from council restrictions, human technology was advancing faster than ever before. But the news from council space grew worse each day. Dr. Park Soo-hyun burst into his office with a data tablet in her hands. 3 Vraxian core worlds are being evacuated right now. Their atmospheric processors have completely failed. Lee Taman took the tablet and read the report. Vraxia Prime, Vraxia Beta, and Vraxia Gamma, worlds that housed over 2 billion Vraxians, were becoming unlivable. The massive machines that cleaned their air and regulated their weather had broken down beyond repair. These processors were designed by my team 15 years ago, Engineer Choi Jiho said from across the room. He had returned safely from his secret mission to Nexus Station, but the experience had changed him. The Vraxians insisted on modifications that I warned them about. I told them those changes would make the systems unstable over time. They did not listen? Lee Taman asked. They said human designs were too complicated. They wanted simpler controls. Jiho shook his head. Simple is not always better. Commander Kim Dong-yun entered with more bad news. The crystalline hegemony has lost their entire home system. The crystal forests that regulate their planet's climate have died. Without them, the world is freezing. Dr. Park Soo-hyun had worked on those crystal forests during her early career. The crystals are alive, but they need constant biological support to survive. The support system I designed required daily monitoring and adjustment. The crystallines thought they could automate it. What happens when living things are treated like machines? Lee Taman asked. They die. The worst news came from Admiral Yu Minha. She had been monitoring Council military communications through her network of former colleagues. Nexus Station is gone. The explosion happened 3 days ago. The room fell silent. Nexus Station had been the pride of the Galactic Council. The massive facility had built ships for 12 species over 3 centuries. Now it was just debris, floating in space. How many died? Lee Taman asked quietly. 200,000. They evacuated most of the station, but the engineering team stayed behind trying to fix the cooling system. Minya's voice was heavy with sadness. Engineer Jiho's instructions were correct, but they did not follow them precisely. One small mistake in the sequence caused a chain reaction. Jiho sat down heavily in his chair. I should have stayed. I could have guided them through it step by step. You would have died with them, Dr. Park Soo-hyun said gently. And we need you alive to help rebuild when this is over. Scientist Han Mi-yeon had been tracking the cascade of failures across council space. Her quantum communication arrays intercepted distress signals from hundreds of systems. It is not just the big disasters. Small failures are happening everywhere. Life support systems on mining stations, water purification on colony worlds, power grids in major cities. All of these systems were touched by human engineering at some point. Captain An Sung-jin ran the human merchant fleet that now operated beyond council borders. His ships regularly smuggled human experts into council space for emergency repairs. The demand for our services has increased by 500%. We cannot keep up with all the requests for help. Are they paying well? Lee Taemin asked. They are paying desperately. Some alien governments are offering entire star systems in exchange for human expertise. The political situation in council space was becoming chaotic. The Sage Republic had formally withdrawn from the council after the Nexus Station disaster. Their new leader, wisdom speaker Than, sent a public message announcing their decision. The council's expulsion of humanity was not just wrong, it was catastrophically stupid. We will not remain part of an organization that destroys itself through prejudice and fear. The Traitor Alliance followed soon after. Merchant Prime zealots say, announcement was blunt. Business requires competence. The council has proven incompetent. We choose to work with partners who can solve problems instead of creating them. But the remaining council species doubled down on their position. Vraxian Emperor Kothor, despite losing 3 worlds, insisted that the failures were temporary. We will overcome these challenges. We do not need human help. The Crystalline High Command claimed the disasters were human sabotage. These systems were designed to fail. Humans planned this from the beginning. The Biocollective was facing the worst crisis of all. Their organic ships had begun eating each other. The delicate symbiotic relationships that kept their vessels functioning had completely collapsed. Dr. Park Soo-hyun explained the situation to the Human Leadership Council. Biocollective ships are not just vehicles. They are living ecosystems. Each ship contains thousands of different organisms that work together. Maintaining that balance requires constant adjustment and care. Like tending a garden? Lee Taemin asked. Like tending 1,000 gardens that are all connected to each other. Change one small thing and the effects ripple through the entire system. Pilot Nam Hyun-woo had seen the Biocollective fleet firsthand during a smuggling run. It is horrible. The big ships are hunting the small ones. The crews cannot control them anymore. Some Biocollective worlds have been completely cut off because their ships refuse to land there. The human response to these crises revealed something important about their nature. Despite being unfairly expelled and blamed for the disasters, many humans wanted to help. Dr. Lim Ji-hye had been working on terraforming projects for the coalition. When she learned about the failing worlds, she immediately began designing emergency atmospheric processors. People are dying. It does not matter what their governments did to us. Admiral Song Woo-bin organized the human fleet into an efficient defense force, but he also created humanitarian response teams. We will protect our people, but we will also save lives when we can. The young generation of aliens began to question their leaders' decisions. On Vraxian worlds, protests demanded the recall of human engineers. Crystalline youth movements called for their high command to negotiate with humanity. Even some Biocollective colonies sent secret messages asking for help. But the older leaders remained stubborn. They had invested too much pride in their decision to admit they were wrong. Instead, they began preparing for war, claiming that human sabotage required a military response. This threat pushed the Human Frontier Coalition to organize more formally. Lee Taemin was elected as their first president. Admiral Yoo Min-ha became defense minister. Dr. Park Soo-hyun led a new Ministry of Sciences that was advancing human technology at an unprecedented rate. They want to blame us for their failures, Lee Taemin told the Coalition Congress. They want to attack us for their mistakes. We will not let them succeed. The Congress approved massive defense spending and rapid expansion of human territory. New colonies were established. New ships were built. New alliances were formed with the species who had left the council. Engineer Choi Ji-ho summed up the situation perfectly during a meeting with the leadership. They threw away the best thing they had because they were afraid of change. Now change is destroying them anyway, and they have no one to help them adapt. As the second year of exile began, council space was in chaos. Billions of beings were evacuating failing worlds. Trade networks had collapsed. Military fleets were falling apart. The great alliance that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was crumbling. But in the frontier regions beyond their borders, humanity was building something new, something better, something that would be ready when the old order finally fell apart completely. The question was no longer whether the council would ask for human help. The question was whether humans would be willing to give it. 2 years after the expulsion, President Lee Taemin received a message that changed everything. It came through the most secure diplomatic channels, encrypted with codes that only the highest levels of government knew. The sender was someone he had not heard from since the dark days of evacuation. Ambassador Vrex Kothar, the Vraxian who had led the vote to expel humanity, was requesting a secret meeting. He wants to meet on neutral ground, Admiral Yu Minha reported. A trading station, in the frontier zone. He says he comes with full authority from the Vraxian Emperor. Lee Taemin stared at the message. Kothar had been humanity's greatest enemy in the council. His speeches had convinced other species that humans were dangerous. His vote had sealed their fate. It could be a trap, Commander Kim Dong-hyun warned. The Vraxians have blamed us for every disaster in their territory. They might try to capture you and claim you admitted to sabotage. But Dr. Park Soo-hyun had different news. I received a message from Dr. Yalis Forth yesterday. The plague has reached the crystalline core worlds. Millions are dying, and it is spreading faster than they can contain it. The plague had started, small, a bacterial infection on a mining colony that humans had previously managed through careful bioprotocols. Without human oversight, the quarantine systems had failed. Now the infection was mutating and spreading across species boundaries. Scientist Han Myeon had been monitoring the plague's spread through intercepted medical reports. This is the same infection that Dr. Park controlled 15 years ago. The eye treatment protocol requires constant adjustment as the bacteria adapts. Without that adjustment, it becomes deadlier over time. How bad is it now? Lee Taemin asked. If it continues spreading at the current rate, it will kill 30% of all life in council space within 5 years. The meeting with Kothar took place on Frontier Station, a rough trading post that served smugglers and merchants from both sides of the border. Lee Taemin brought a small team, including Dr. Park Soo-hyun and engineer Choi Ji-ho. Kothar looked older. Then Lee Taemin remembered. The proud Vraxian scales had lost their shine. His movements were slow and tired. When he spoke, his voice lacked the commanding tone that had once echoed through the council chambers. President Lee Taemin, Kothar began formally, I come to you with a proposal from the Vraxian Empire. I am listening, Lee Taemin replied. We are prepared to offer full restoration of human rights in council space. Complete territory restoration. Compensation for damages. All of your research will be returned. You will have positions of leadership in a reformed council structure. It was everything they could have asked for 2 years ago, but Lee Taemin did not look impressed. And in return? Help us save our worlds. Dr. Park Soo-hyun leaned forward. Your medical reports say the plague has reached Vraxia Prime. How many infected? Kothar's shoulders slumped. 200 million and growing. Our doctors cannot stop it. Every treatment they try makes it worse. Because the bacteria is evolving faster than your responses, Soo-hyun explained. This organism requires dynamic treatment protocols. Your medical system is too rigid to adapt quickly enough. Engineer Choi Ji-ho had been studying reports of infrastructure failures across Vraxian space. 40% of your industrial capacity is offline. Your atmospheric processors are failing on 12 worlds. Your space elevators are structurally unsound. These problems will take years to fix, even with human help. We understand the scope of our difficulties, Kothar admitted, but surely we can work together to solve them. Lee Taemin stood up and walked to the station's viewport. Outside, human ships moved alongside alien vessels in peaceful trade. Ambassador Kothar, 2 years ago you told the Council that humans were too dangerous. To remain in civilized space, you said we brought chaos and instability? We were mistaken about some things. You were afraid, Admiral Yu Minha said bluntly. Afraid that other species would start thinking like humans, start questioning authority, start innovating instead of following rules. Kothar's tail twitched with irritation, but he controlled himself. Perhaps there is truth in what you say, but can we discuss the past later? Right now, people are dying. People were dying 2 years ago when you expelled us, Dr. Park Soo-yun pointed out. My research could have prevented this plague entirely if I had been allowed to continue my work. You cannot change the past, Kothar replied desperately. But you can help us save the future. Lee Taemin returned to his seat. You are not the only one who has come asking for help. We have received similar messages from the Crystalline, High Command, the Biocollective Central Authority, and 3 other council species. Kothar looked surprised. Others have approached you? Everyone is approaching us. The same species that voted to expel us are now competing with each other to get our help first. Captain An Sungjin had been quietly recording the conversation. His merchant network had become crucial for gathering intelligence about council space. The situation is worse than your reports indicate. The Biocollective has lost 60% of their fleet. Crystalline worlds are abandoning their cities as the crystal networks fail. Even the minor council species are facing complete system breakdowns. Which brings us to an important question, Lee Taemin said. Why should we help you? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Kothar struggled with his answer. Because it is the right thing to do? The right thing, Commander Kim Dong-hyun repeated. Was it the right thing to force 12 million humans from their homes? Was it the right thing to destroy decades of scientific research? Was it the right thing to separate families and break up communities? Kothar had no answer. Dr. Park Soo-hyun spoke more gently. Ambassador, I spent my career studying how different species can work together. I learned that cooperation requires trust and respect. The Council expelled us because you did not trust or respect human contributions. We see now that we were wrong. Do you? Or do you just see that you need us? Engineer Choi Ji-ho pulled out a data tablet. I have been analyzing the failure patterns across council space. The problems are not random. They follow predictable patterns based on how long each system has been without human maintenance. What does that mean? Kothar asked. It means this is only the beginning. The worst failures are still coming. In 6 months, your primary trade routes will become impassable. In 1 year, your core worlds will lose life support. In 2 years, your entire civilization will collapse. The Vraxian ambassador's scales turned pale. Can this be prevented? Yes, Lee Taemin said simply. But not by restoring the old system. The council model was flawed from the beginning. It concentrated power among a few species and stifled innovation. That is why you expelled us, because human creativity threatened the established order. What do you propose instead? Something new, something better. A confederation where all species are truly equal, where decisions are made based on merit, not politics, where innovation is encouraged, not feared. Admiral Yu Minha spread a star map on the table. Humanity has been building this new system for 2 years. The Sage Republic and Trader Alliance have already joined us. Several independent worlds have requested membership. We offer what the Council never did, genuine partnership based on mutual respect. Kothar studied the map. The human territory had grown dramatically. New colonies, new trade routes, new alliances. The exiled species had built an impressive foundation for their alternative to the Council. You would accept Vraxian membership in this OS Confederation? If the Vraxian people choose it freely, Lee Taemin replied. If they are willing to work as partners instead of rulers. If they can learn to value cooperation over control. And if we cannot accept these terms, then you will face the collapse alone. Kothar sat in silence for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I must return to my emperor with your proposal. But first, could your doctors help with the plague? People are dying while we negotiate. Dr. Park Soo-hyun looked at Lee Taemin, who nodded. I will send medical supplies and treatment protocols immediately, but Ambassador, this is humanitarian aid, not a political agreement. We help because it is right, not because it benefits us. As Kothar prepared to leave, he turned back to Lee Taemin. I have one final question. After everything we did to humanity, why are you willing to help at all? Lee Taemin smiled sadly. Because that is what humans do. We solve problems. We help others. We build bridges instead of walls. That is exactly what you were afraid of 2 years ago. After the Vraxian left, the human team discussed their options. More alien delegations were arriving every day, each desperate for help, each offering deals that would have seemed impossible 2 years earlier. But President Lee Taemin had a different concern. We can save their worlds and their people, but can we save them from themselves? Can species that chose fear over hope really change? The answer to that question would determine the future of the galaxy. The great meeting took place on New Sol, humanity's thriving frontier capital. President Lee Taemin watched through his office window as alien ships arrived in the orbital yards. Vraxian warships, crystalline transport vessels, biocollective, organic craft, and shuttles from a dozen other species filled the space around the human world. All of them had come to beg for help. In the 2 weeks since Ambassador Kothar's visit, the situation in Council space had gotten much worse. The plague had spread to 15 worlds. 3 more Vraxian colonies had been evacuated. The remaining biocollective fleet was down to just 30 ships, many of which were fighting each other for resources. Dr. Park Soo-hyun entered Lee Taemin's office with the latest reports. The medical situation is critical. Without immediate intervention, we are looking at complete civilizational collapse within months, not years. How many could we save if we acted now? Lee Taemin asked. Most of them. The plague is treatable, if we move quickly. The infrastructure failures can be repaired with human expertise, but it will require a massive effort. Admiral Yu Minha joined them with military reports. Our scouts report that some council species are preparing for war. They would rather attack us than admit they need our help. Which species? The hegemony faction within the crystalline government. Some Vraxian military leaders. They believe that if they cannot have our help willingly, they will take it by force. Commander Kim Dong-hyun had spent the morning coordinating security for the alien delegates. The irony is incredible. They expelled us for being dangerous, and now they want to start a war because we are too helpful. The first formal session began in New Sol's Grand Assembly Hall. Representatives from 11 alien species sat around a circular table. There were no elevated seats, no symbols of rank or authority. Everyone was equal here. Lee Taemin addressed the gathering. You have all come asking for human assistance. Before we discuss terms, I want each of you to explain why your species voted to expel humanity from the Council. Ambassador Kothar spoke first. The Vraxian Empire believed humans were becoming too influential. We feared that human innovation would disrupt the stability we had built over centuries. The crystalline representative, harmonizer Vex Kirol, admitted their reasoning. We thought human creativity was dangerous. Our society values slow, careful progress. Human rapid development made us uncomfortable. One by one, each species explained their vote. Fear of change, worry about losing control, suspicion of human motives, pride in their own methods. What you all describe, Dr. Park Soo-hyun observed, is fear of growth. You were comfortable with stagnation and afraid of evolution. Engineer Choi Ji-ho had prepared detailed assessments of each species' problems. Your current crises are not the result of sabotage or bad luck. They are the natural consequences of refusing to adapt and improve. Scientist Han Myeon presented her analysis of the failure patterns. Every broken system, every collapsed network, every failed protocol, they all have one thing in common. They were designed to be maintained by people who understood principles, not just procedures. You taught your people to follow instructions, Admiral Yu Minha added, but you never taught them to think for themselves. The alien representatives looked uncomfortable with this assessment, but none could argue with the evidence. Captain An Seungjin had news from his merchant network. 3 more council species have formally requested to join our confederation. The gentle shepherds, the deep swimmers, and the cloud riders have all abandoned the old council structure. That leaves only 6 of the original 12 council species, Lee Taman noted, and those 6 are here asking for our help. The Vraxian military commander, General Vrak Sathan, spoke up angrily. You humans act like you are superior to us, but you are still just one species among many. You are right, Lee Taman agreed calmly. We are just one species, but we are a species that solves problems instead of creating them. We build bridges instead of walls. We ask, how can we improve this, instead of, how can we control this? Dr. Lim Jihe presented the human proposal. We are willing to provide immediate humanitarian aid to all council worlds, medical supplies for the plague, emergency repairs for critical infrastructure, food and shelter for refugees. What do you want in return? Harmonizer Kaital asked suspiciously. Nothing, Lee Taman replied. The alien representatives looked shocked. General Scythen was the first to recover. Nothing? That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense, Dr. Park Soo-hyun explained. People are dying. Worlds are becoming uninhabitable. When there is suffering, humans help. That is what we do. But, surely you want political concessions, Ambassador Kothar insisted. We want you to make your own choices about your future, Admiral Yu Minha replied. We will not force you to join our confederation. We will not demand territory or tribute. We will help because it is right, and then you can decide what kind of society you want to build. The alien delegates spent hours trying to find the catch in humanity's offer. They were accustomed to politics where every favor came with a price. The idea of genuine altruism seemed impossible to them. Engineer Choi Ji-ho explained the practical details. We have teams ready to deploy immediately, medical experts to fight the plague, engineers to repair your infrastructure, scientists to stabilize your failing systems. They will work with your people as partners, not masters. How do we know you will not sabotage us again? General Scythen demanded. We never sabotaged you in the first place, Commander Kim Dong-yeon replied patiently. Your systems failed because you did not maintain them properly. Pilot Nam Hyunwoo had been running rescue missions to Council space for months. I have saved thousands of alien lives in the past year. If we wanted you dead, why would we keep saving you? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Harmonizer. Kaital, the crystalline representative, stood up slowly. I need to say something, Kaital announced. For 2 years I have listened to my government blame humans for our problems. But I worked with Dr. Park Soo-hyun for 20 years. I know her character. I know human character. The hall fell silent. Humans are not perfect, Keital continued. But they are honest. When they offer help, they mean it. When they make a promise, they keep it. When they see suffering, they act to stop it. Keital turned to face the other alien delegates. We expelled them because we were afraid of their virtues, not their vices. We were afraid of their honesty in a system built on political games. We were afraid of their innovation in a culture that prized conformity. We were afraid of their hope in a society that had grown comfortable with cynicism. The crystalline being's voice grew stronger. I formally request that the crystalline hegemony be dissolved and reformed as the Crystalline Republic. We will join the Human Confederation as equal partners. One by one, other representatives made similar announcements. The Bio Collective chose to reorganize as independent colonies working together voluntarily. The remaining council species voted to abandon the old hierarchical structure. Only the Vraxian Empire held out. General Scythen and the military faction insisted they could solve their problems alone, but Ambassador Kothar had different news. The Vraxian Emperor is dead, Kothar announced quietly. The plague reached the capital 3 days ago. I now speak for a provisional government that values survival over pride. The old Galactic Council was officially dissolved that day. In its place, the Galactic Confederation was established with humanity as one member among equals. The new charter emphasized cooperation over control, innovation over tradition, and mutual respect over hierarchical authority. Dr. Park Soo-hyun led the medical response to the plague crisis. Working with alien scientists as true partners, they developed treatments that stopped the infection within 6 months. Engineer Choi Ji-ho organized repair teams that restored critical infrastructure across dozens of worlds. Admiral Song Woo-bin commanded a joint fleet of human and alien ships that protected refugee convoys and maintained peace during the transition. Captain An Seung-jin's merchant network became the foundation for a new interstellar economy based on fair trade rather than exploitation. 10 years later, President Lee Taemin stood once again in a great assembly hall. But this one was different from the old council chamber. Instead of elevated seats showing rank and status, there were circular tables where representatives sat as equals. Instead of formal speeches about power and control, there were working sessions about cooperation and growth. The galaxy had changed. The rigid hierarchies of the old council had given way to flexible partnerships. Innovation flourished as species, shared knowledge freely. Problems were solved through creativity rather than authority. Dr. Park Soo-hyun, now director of interspecies research, had made breakthrough discoveries that would have been impossible under the old system's restrictions. Her work on dimensional physics was opening entirely new frontiers for exploration. Engineer Choi Ji-ho had trained thousands of alien students in advanced engineering principles. Instead of just following procedures, they now understood the science behind the technology. The former enemies had become friends. Ambassador Kothar, now president of the Vraxian Republic, worked closely with human leaders on trade agreements and research projects. General Scythen had retired from the military and become a student of human philosophy.